Welcome to Your Brand Amplified, the podcast where we interview marketers, publicists, and brands to learn their stories, what makes them tick, and tips and tricks that make a difference. I am thrilled to have Nicky Billou with me now. He is the #1 international bestselling author of the book, Finish Line Thinking, How to Think and Win Like a Champion, The Thought Leader's Journey, A Fable of Life, and the Power of Connecting, How to Activate Profitable Relationships by Serving Your Network. Wow. Not just one, multiple books, and you are really helping change people's lives. But before we get into that and the work that you do now, let's talk about your story and your journey to get here.
First of all, thank you so much for having me on the show. It's an honor to be here.
Oh, thank you.
And my story is a powerful one. I'm originally an immigrant from the Middle East. I'm a Christian from Iran. And when I was 11 years old, the Islamic Revolution took place in Iran, and the relatively moderate, secular, freedom-oriented regime of the Shah of Iran was overthrown and replaced with an intolerant, tyrannical regime of the mullahs. And my late father, God rest his soul, he could see the writing on the wall that this was not going to be a great place for him to raise his Christian family.
Right.
So he made a plan and he got us out of Iran, where we left. We went to Europe first, Greece. We stayed there for 2 years, and then we moved to Canada, Toronto, Ontario, where I still now live. And at the time, I was 11. I didn't want to leave my friends, my home. But looking back, it was the greatest gift my father gave us. He took our family and our legacy and took it from tyranny to freedom. And that is why I am the greatest champion for freedom, free expression, and free enterprise that the world knows today, because I have firsthand experienced tyranny.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, people who live in the West, people who live in the United States of America, in Great Britain, Canada, wake up. This is the greatest, freest place in the world. We are lucky. Yeah. We are lucky, blessed by God to have this. And do not let those charlatans today that are pretending under the guise of tolerance to take our free speech and our free enterprise away from us. Do not let them do it. Stand up and be counted when it counts, first and foremost.
Thank you for sharing that. That is so difficult. And it's so wonderful that your father had that foresight to know that he couldn't just depend on wishful thinking, right? Or magical thinking to think that everything's going to be better in the country. But he actually said, no, this is going to get worse. Took you out of that situation. And you're correct. I think we forget all the time how lucky we are to live in a place where we can all have different viewpoints and express them to one another. And sometimes people start thinking down the line of, no, you have to think this way or this way. But that is the beauty of living where we live, is that you don't have to have the same point of view on every single topic. That doesn't mean you can't get along. And that's what we need people to remember.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The United States was born in freedom. It's a nation that has always sought to become more perfect. It has had many imperfections along the way. But which other country do you know decided to fight a civil war to erase the stain of slavery? Which other country do you know where the majority race said, we are not doing well, we can do better? There is no other country. It doesn't exist, because in the rest of the world, the majority races keep the power and keep the minority races down.
Yeah.
And man, that is incredible that a nation like this exists, that a way of being like this exists. Bedrock of freedom is what allows free enterprise to flourish. And without free enterprise, none of us could make money. Everybody here needs to understand this. Without free enterprise, none of us could make money. Socialism is the bane of success. If we do not understand that we've got to stand up for a free enterprise economy so we can go out there and freely decide what business we want to be in, freely decide who we want to do business with, that's what we all want. And that's what free enterprise makes possible.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about your journey. You moved to Greece first for a couple of years. And then, so you were a teenager when you went to Canada. What was the experience like growing up there? And what did you decide to do for your schooling? And what was your first interaction with business?
Well, it was tough coming to a new society. I mean, it was tough. There's no question about it. But my father, he was an entrepreneur. He was the kind of man that if he knew you and you were looking for work, he would find you a job. If you were looking to start a business, he would sit down with you and help you get that business going.
Mm-hmm.
He would introduce you to resources you needed, including financing.
Wow.
And if you worked for him or you knew him and you were trying to buy a car, a house, an apartment, and you didn't quite have enough money and you went to my dad, he would top you up so you could buy that car, that house, that apartment. That's who he was. I wanted to be like him. You think about this. Who does that?
Yeah.
Well, the late, great Napoleon Billou, that's one. And I wanted to be like that man. And to this day, people come to me and go, "Are you Napoleon Billou's son?" And I go, "Yes, I am." And they go, "I need to tell you something." And I go, "What?" And then they share their story of something my dad did for them. And then they all just go, "Can I shake your hand?" And I go, "Why?" He says, "I want to shake the hand of Napoleon Billou's son." And I'm like, I'm nobody. I mean, I didn't do anything. Just being related to him made that. And I wanted to be an entrepreneur. So I decided, I went into business and I worked for corporations for a while, but I knew I was not meant for that. I knew I was meant to be my own man and run my own show. So eventually I did. I created companies and I had a background in business. I grew up in a business family.
Wow.
And what I saw was a lot of entrepreneurs, Annika, they were good at what they did, but they were not good at business. They didn't understand sales or marketing or customer service or financial statements or any of that stuff.
Right.
And so what happened was I said, I'm going to help people with this. I'm going to be the man, the coach, the consultant, the advisor. I'm going to help people get this all sorted out, especially when it came to differentiation, branding, personal branding, selling. A lot of people had problems with that. People they just didn't want to be seen as pushy or salesy.
Right.
And they didn't know how to stand out. So I help them reframe this whole pushy salesy thing because you don't want to be pushed or sold. I don't want to be pushed or sold, but everybody loves to be served by a caring human being. And if you have somebody caring that comes to you from service, that's where it's at, So I help them reframe selling to serving. And that alone helped people double, triple, quadruple, tenfold their business. And then I help people create a powerful, powerful level of personal brand and differentiation. Let me tell you a story. There was a woman who came to us the summer of 2019, July 2019. She was a naturopathic doctor and she was very successful. She made 6 figures a year. But her father was an entrepreneur and he was dying of brain cancer, glioblastoma. And she wanted to honor him. She was daddy's girl. And she said, "I want to have a 7-figure business." So we met with her. He says, "Okay, tell us what you do." And she goes, "Well, I can help anybody with any health problem." And I'm like, no, that's not the opportunity. So we helped her go through a process. And here's what we did. We helped her go through her past clients and look at who she got the best results for, who she enjoyed working with the most, and who was the easiest to transact with, paid the most, paid on time. That's the ideal client zone where all 3 of those intersect. And for her, professional woman, married with kids over the age of 45.
Okay.
Why? Well, these were successful women with successful marriages, beautiful families who felt old, aged, like they weren't beautiful anymore. They weren't sexy anymore. They weren't attractive. They weren't desirable. And listen, I don't have to tell a wonderful, attractive woman like you how important that is to a woman to feel beautiful, desirable, to feel incredible. Like that is an important essence of a woman's feminine power. And they hated it. They wouldn't speak about it out loud, but they would complain to their friends. They'd go to their husbands, "Do I look fat in that dress?" or stuff like that. I mean, a question no man should ever answer. I mean, And she said, "Look, getting older is inevitable, but aging isn't." And then we came up with a name for a program, Get Your Sexy Back. Boom. She doubled her income in year 1, doubled it again in year 2, doubled it again in year 3. She went from 6 figures a year to 6 figures a month. That is the power of a powerful personal brand and being seen as the go-to authority in your space. 6 figures a year to 6 figures a month. Now, Annika, would you like to go from 6 figures a year to 6 figures a month?
I think
would that be something you would enjoy?
Yeah, I think everybody would like to do that. I also think the other thing that you really hit on is that so many times people say, "Oh, I'm for everybody." Well,
no,
you might have a product that everybody can purchase, but that doesn't mean your audience is everybody. You need to come up with your customer personas, just like you did in that exercise. You need to niche down so that you are reaching the right target market, because that is going to make up the bulk of your sales.
And imagine that just being clear on who's for you and who you are for allowed this beautiful lady to honor her father and honor herself by going from a 6-figure business to a 7-figure business.
Yeah.
Wow.
That is very, very powerful. And something else you touched on, a lot of people, they're scared to present themselves. They live in their zone of comfort and they have this fear of being seen as inauthentic if they are the face, if they're putting their personal brand out there. So how do you help people navigate out of that and become comfortable being the face of their company, of their personal brand, and sharing who they really are authentically, but in a way that also captures the ideal audience?
Well, that's a great question. So I want to tell you a tale of 2 CEOs. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
One led a company called Dell Computer and the other led a company called Apple Computer. At least that's what it was called at the time. It's 1998, and Dell Computer was a $12.7 billion a year company. Apple was just a $5.9 billion a year company. The CEO of Dell decided that he was going to just grow the company and the company brand and stay in the background. The CEO of Apple invested himself out there in sharing the message that was meaningful to him. And fast forward 25 years, 2023.
Mm-hmm.
Dell has grown tremendously. It's a $102 billion a year company. But Apple is a $394 billion a year company. It is the most valuable public company in the world. And the CEO of Apple has been dead for 11 and a half years. But during that time that he was alive, his light shone so bright. And he put himself out there. He had a message that people who are crazy enough to change the world are the ones who do, and that I am here and my company is here to serve those men and women who want to change the world. They're not fond of rules and they don't truck with the status quo. You can vilify them. You can even crucify them. But one thing you can't do is ignore them, because they change things and they move the human race forward. Why? Because the people that are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. That's from Think Different. And that was the message of Steve Jobs. He took it everywhere he went. He spoke at events, put himself out there. He built a brand that was bigger than Apple, because he had Apple, he had Pixar, he had Next, and a number of other companies under his brand. And that's what grew that organization. And if you're in business today and you want to be successful for yourself, for your family, for the world, for the people that you serve, and you tell me, I don't know if I want to put myself out there, that's like saying, I'm above it all. I'm selfish. I'm better than that. And that's okay if you really believe that. But if you really believe that, then maybe we shouldn't be speaking, because I don't believe that. And that's not what I think about you or for myself. And I also don't think you really believe that. You're just scared. And that's why you need someone like me to come and show you how becoming a CEO of this type of company will help you attract more customers, will help you attract A-level talents who will beg to work with you, will help you reduce attrition of both customers and employees, will help you attract investors, and will help you attract media attention that will help you scale and grow tenfold, 100-fold, 1,000-fold, 1,000,000-fold. That is the power of a CEO thought leader brand. That is what I've done for CEOs. That is what's possible for CEOs. Now, if you're a coach or a consultant or an advisor, you can take your 6-figure business and make it a 7 or 8-figure business. If you're a CEO or you're a founder, you can take your 7 or 8-figure business and make it a 9, 10, 11-figure business using these methodologies that I'm talking about now.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir. This is something that I teach my students at USC when I'm teaching branding and public relations to them. And it's something I preach to clients every day as well. Because if I have a client who comes to me and says they want help, but they're not willing to put themselves as the forefront of their brand and tell the story of why they created their product or service, I can't work with them. The story is not the same. It's not nearly as powerful. So we're kindred spirits, and I love what you're talking about here. Of course. So thought leadership is a big thing on everybody's minds, especially with the PR landscape, because you mentioned PR is part of that and media attention. And the landscape has changed so much. I'm seeing so many people being laid off. Journalists from major publications are being moved into branded or sponsored or advertising side of their magazines from being just straight journalists. So how does being a thought leader help attract attention? And what are some techniques that somebody can use to make sure that they are positioning themselves to the right media or the right speaking engagements, the right forums to be seen?
Okay, so what I'm about to say here is going to piss a few people off.
Okay.
because the truth does that. But being a thought leader is about being steak and not about being sizzle. You with me?
Oh, yeah.
There's people who go, let me position myself. Let me be an influencer. Let me say this. No, you've got to have the goods. You've got to have gone through life. So one of my mentors, Matt Church, said, an expert's someone who knows something, while a thought leader is known for knowing something.
Mm-hmm.
You want to become a thought leader. The exercises we take our clients through is we take a deep dive into you, and we help you understand what is it that you've learned in your 30 years, 50 years, 60 years of living, and how can that be applied to you solving problems in business? You've got to do that. If your life were a movie, what would the title of the movie be? What are the key things that have happened in your life over time? From there, the adversities and the victories will give you the knowledge that can allow you to develop thought leadership. You got to do that. So look, you talked about the books I've written. So let me just bring a few of them down here for you to show. Okay. So this isn't all of them. Power of Connecting, 2 editions of political book I wrote. Second political book I wrote, children's book on free enterprise, Kathy Kaplis, Johnny Jobmaker, The Thought Leader's Journey over here, 2 editions of Finish Line Thinking, and 1 edition of How to Create $1 Million a Year Income. This is part of my thought leader stack.
Yep.
So if you were to come and say, how do I position myself as a thought leader? Well, I've done the work.
Yeah.
Done the work to have something relevant to talk about. And if you haven't done the work, I'm sorry, you can't call yourself a thought leader with any level of credibility. And if you do, people are going to laugh at you. They're going to go, no, you're not a thought leader. You're a thought pretender. You're a thought follower. You follow me? Yeah. So this has to happen. And this is what we take our clients through, is to make sure that they've created this, not necessarily written 7 or 8 books, but they've developed this. So, you know, what I showed you here, this is Matt Church's IP. This is something called a pink sheet, right? Because it's colored pink. Pink sheets are IP snapshots. This is a folder of IP, and this is a bunch of pink sheets that I've done on a bunch of topics. So you've got to develop a few of these pink sheets in an area. Mm-hmm. So let's say it's high performance. Let's say it's advising companies on branding in the age of woke politics, right? Like how not to wreck your brand. Anheuser-Busch and Target did the last little while. Let's say that's how you want to put yourself out there. You better have done the thinking and written some things out there to teach people how to do this. Because if you don't do that and you just say, oh, I'm the expert.
Right.
Who's going to believe you? Do you believe you? Do you even believe you? You've got to be able to say it from the point of view of you understand. You've got the goods. Once you've got the goods, the first thing you got to do is you've got to start putting yourself out there. So how can you do that? Well, anybody today with an iPhone or an Android can go on Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, and shoot reels, shorts, videos. Yeah. You don't even need equipment beyond the phone. Just put your phone next to your computer, have it face you, turn it on, start talking, right? Like the first thing you can do, okay, let's say you were going to put yourself out there to advise companies like Target and Anheuser-Busch, right? And by the way, that's a good idea if you actually have the skill set to do it. And you go, okay, guys, let's get your brand back. We want to build back $26 billion in equity that you just lost over the last few weeks. You better start talking about this on video every single day for 10, 15, 20 days. You better do that. Because if you don't do that, then your thought leadership is in you. Mm-hmm. Nobody knows you. And remember what Matt Church said, an expert, someone who knows something, a thought leader, someone who's known for knowing something. So you've got to publish what you got going on. So videos, video channel, Annika's channel, Nikki's channel, whatever it is, right? Valuetainment for Patrick Bet-David, fantastic video channel he developed. Secondly, go be a guest on podcast, just like I'm being a guest on your podcast right now. I'm telling a story. You got to learn how to do it. Now, out of me being a guest on podcasts for the last year, I generated over $330,000 in revenue. Oh. How? Well, that's my secret sauce. You got to pay me to get that out of me. But in a nutshell, you need a good story. Mm-hmm. You need to speak to a pain for people. You need to be valuable to the host, build a relationship with the host, and you got to go on lots of podcasts. You do that, you can make some money. Next, okay, you've been a guest, you've got a video channel. Maybe you want to take the level of professionalism up. You want to do your own podcast like you do right now. Boom, create a podcast around a particular message, put it out there. Next, write a book about your topic. and then use social media to amplify it all. But before you do any of this, your message better be nailed.
Right.
Nailed, 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 nailed. Then you do this. If your message isn't nailed and you do this, bad idea. Better not to do it.
Exactly.
Because then you're going to lose credibility. You're not going to be seen as a thought leader. You're going to be seen as some person who tried to position themselves without backing it up. And you better be able to back it up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So one of the things that you are really good at helping your clients, and you just spoke about how much income you added by being a guest on podcasts. How can someone add $20,000 to $100,000 to their income this year? Or another thing that you talk about is adding $30,000 to your income in the next 30 days. So either one of those. And are they different tactics, same tactics?
Well, if you want to do it in 30 days, get your message straight. And then you've really got to look at who you help and start talking to people.
Mm-hmm.
There is no other way to do it. So a lot of people today are scared and they just want to post on social media. Well, you're not going to make money if you just post on social media. You got to talk to people. Mm-hmm. You and I are having a conversation now. There are 3 reasons I come on podcasts. Reason number 1 is I think people need to hear positive voices, and I'm a positive voice and I inspire people. So I know it's my job to uplift people who are feeling a little bit sad, a little bit, like the world maybe isn't where I want it to be for me. So I want to give them hope and belief and faith. Second reason is I want to build a relationship with you. See, I'm old school business. I do business with people I know, like, and trust. Yeah. So how do I meet great business people? Well, there's this thing called Podmatch that I signed up that's allowed me to develop 200 powerful new relationships. And I've done business with about 20 of those 200 people over time. You get to know me, I get to know you. We have some conversations. You might say, hey, I like what you're talking about. Can we chat? Or I might say, hey, Annika, I help people like you. You want to chat? That's how it's done. That's how you build relationships. So if you go on shows, you build relationships with the host. And then thirdly, well, you got hundreds to thousands of listeners. So, someone listening to me for an hour doesn't get the benefit of what you and I got to do, but they get the benefit of listening to what I have to say. And in that hour, if it touched on a pain point that they have, one of the things I do at the end of the show is I go, hey, if you want to get in touch with me, here's how you do it. Boom. People come and get in touch with me. And that's what you should do as a thought leader who's looking to make money. And then the third one is go into your own network, make phone calls, call people. Hey, how's it going? What's going on? Listen, I'm doing X, Y, and Z. Do you have a need for X, Y, and Z? You do. Can we set up a separate call to talk about it? Because, I only have a couple minutes now. Mm-hmm. Great. Boom. If you do that with enough people, then you're going to make that kind of money. Mm-hmm. But if you don't.
Yeah. Well, I think what you're also talking about, it's like you said, it's that old school mentality. What you touched on is one of the things I love about podcasting is every time I'm on one as a guest or I'm hosting somebody on mine, that is a relationship that I've built. If somebody comes to me and they're not the right client for me, but I can look through all the people that I've interviewed on different topics, say, okay, I think you'd be a good match with this person, and then I can refer them to you. Or vice versa. It's very powerful. And with this virtual world where a lot of us are working remotely, it is a great way to build up those connections and also to make all of these connections we wouldn't have made because we live in different parts of the world. We live in different countries. We live on different coasts. So
100%. I agree with that.
Yeah. So do you usually work with people who are at a certain level? Do you work with people who are just starting their businesses? What does that look like to work with you?
Okay, so I have a few different markets that I work inside of. Mm-hmm. So number one is we work with coaches and consultants and experts who've been in business for at least 3 years and have at least a 6-figure income. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of our bread and butter. We're really good at taking people that are between about 100K and $250,000, taking them to $250,000 to $2 million. Nice. That's kind of our thing. If someone's newer in business, we do have some programs for that. But first and foremost, I would send them to read this book. It's called The Thought Leader's Journey. It's for somebody who wants to get started in business, brand new. You can get it very cheaply on Amazon. So I recommend that you do that. That's a good spot. I offer a Kindle version of it for free. I can give you the link. So if someone wants that and they don't want to spend the money, they can do that. But I'll also say this. If you're not broke, spend the money. Not that, I'm going to get the $20 or whatever that you spend on the book, but you're telling yourself you're willing to invest in yourself.
Yeah.
And there are 4 characteristics of the super successful people that I look for on who I'm going to work with. Number one is they got to be decisive. They got to be ready. Like, I'm making a decision, drawing a line in the sand, this shall be, right? Decide at the root of it. is the word side, which is a Latin word for kill. To decide is to kill off the alternative. Look at other words with side in it, right? Homicide, suicide, regicide, genocide. They're all about killing. And deciding is about killing the alternative. I'm deciding I'm going to be $1 million a year business owner. I'm deciding. Not I'm kicking a tire. I'd like to think about it. I'm deciding. So that's number one. Be decisive. Secondly, be committed. Be committed. You've got to be willing to be bad before you're amazing. You got to go from being bad to being mediocre, to being average, to being okay, to being good, to being great, to being masterful, to being the best that ever was. Are you willing to make that level of commitment to your craft? Thirdly, are you willing to invest in yourself and be coachable? One of my clients from back when I was a fitness trainer is Robin Sharma. He wrote a famous book called The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. And he also wrote the book, The Leader Who Had No Title. He sold 15 million copies of his books. Robin Sharma, amazing man. He said to me when I was training him, Nicky, if you ever want to double your income, triple your investment in personal and professional development. I'm like, triple? What do you mean by that? He said, well, triple your investment in personal and professional development. He said, you've got to hire the coaches, join the masterminds, attend the conferences, do the courses, and read the books. That's how you'll double your income. And I did what he said. I tripled my investment in personal and professional. I over doubled my income. So he's right. You are the most important asset in your business. If you listen to this program and you don't understand investing in yourself, that's insane. That's insane. If you're the CEO of a $10 million a year company and you're making $2-3 million of investments in various aspects of your company, and yet your investment in yourself is zero every year.
Yeah.
That's insane. And then finally, you've got to be resourceful. Tony Robbins said, it doesn't matter how many resources you have. It matters how resourceful are you.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a story about me. Several years ago, I was married, and my then wife, seemingly out of the blue, decided she did not want to be married to me anymore. Maybe I should have seen it coming, but I didn't. And when she left, I spiraled. She kicked me out of the house. I was sleeping on my mother's couch. I went from making $250,000 a year to zero. I was depressed, desperate. A friend of mine took pity on me, bought me a ticket to a conference, took me to the conference. I put on a suit, tie, shaved, didn't have a beard in those days or a mustache, went to the conference. And I saw a man deliver a talk. Annika, that talk spoke to my soul. At the end of his talk, I elbowed everybody out of the way and ran up to him and said, my name is Nicky Billou, and here's my story. Told him my story. And then I said to him, I think I need to hire you. He said, okay. Then you need to know my minimum fee is $5,000 for 5 hours of coaching. And I get paid upfront in advance, in full, for no guarantees and no refunds. You still want to work with me, son? I'm like, whoa, I don't have that kind of money. He said, I'm going to give you some free coaching. I go, I love free coaching. Give me free coaching. He said, it does not matter how much money you have. I go, wait a minute. You just told me you want $5,000 from me. So I think it does matter. He says, no. He said, listen, I have 20 people lined up to work with me, and most of them are going to pay me a lot more than $5,000. I don't need your money. He said it in a vulgar way, but I don't give a F, right? That's how he said it. I'm like, okay. And he said, but you need me. You work with me. It doesn't matter to me. If I work with you, it matters very much to you. And he was right.
Yeah.
And he said, what matters isn't how much money you have. What matters is how bad do you want change? Exactly. How bad do you want change? He said, your wife kicked you out. You're sleeping on your mother's couch. You are unable to provide for your 2 young sons as a man who's supposed to be a provider, and you feel depressed. How much longer do you want to put up with this? A day, a week, a month, a year, a lifetime? Whoa! No. Give me a couple days. I'll be back with you. He goes, all right. I was a trainer then. I called a couple people up who had said neither yes nor no to me. And I called them back with intensity. I got good news for you. I go, okay, what is it? You're fat and you need to lose weight, or you're going to have a heart attack, diabetes, or stroke. And that's not good. I'm broke and I need money, or I can't take care of my kids or even have the right to see them. And that's not good. So I'm going to give you the deal of a lifetime, half price. But here's the catch. You say yes now, you pay me in full right now. What's it going to be? 2 guys said yes. They gave me $1,000 each. I was elated. Went to see this guy. Here's the money. He said, oh, no, that's only $2,000. I said $5,000. I'm like, oh my God. I said, how many people have you told this story you told me to over the years? Over the years, 30, 40. I go, well, that's a lot. I go, besides me, who else came back with any money? He said, oh, that's easy. You're the first. I go, I'm the first. He goes, you are the first. I'm the first. You are the first. I go, then take my money. I'll sign a contract saying I'll pay you the rest in 30, 60 days, whatever the case may be. He agreed, and the rest is history. I paid him back early, and within 6 months, I made 6 figures, and I've never looked back.
Nice.
How bad do you want change?
So to find out more about working with you, where do people go?
eCircleacademy.com /appointment gets you on my calendar. If you want to suss me out, go to the same website, Google Nicky Billou, or go to Amazon, Nicky Billou. And if you're really serious, buy all my books and read them and listen to my podcast episodes. And that'll give you a deep dive into how I think and how I've served people. So those are the 2 ways.
Fantastic. And I will also make sure that is in the show notes. Thank you for sharing your inspirational story and some really great things for people to think about. You are definitely a go-getter. And I think a lot of people are going to listen to this and go, okay, now I know what I need to do. I need to take action now. So, Nicky, I appreciate your time. Thank you to our audience for listening to another expert on Your Brand Amplified. And I'll be back again in a few days. Want more? Check out amplifywithannika.com or follow me on socials at amplifywithannika.